Christians are tuned in too.
The views and opinions expressed in this podcast by the host or the guest do not necessarily reflect the views of Paranormal Buzz Radio or its sponsors. Use of any materials produced by Paranormal Buzz Radio without express written consent is strictly prohibited. For information on everything Paranormal Buzz Radio has to offer, visit our website, paranormalbuzzradio.com. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Instagram. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome to Into the Abyss with Peggy Gypsy. Peggy comes from a long line of spiritual mediums. She is also an afterlife researcher, a paranormal investigator, and she mixes her skills with her special gifts in order to seek knowledge of the unknown, paranormal, and metaphysical. Join Peggy live on Spreaker, Saturday nights, 9 Eastern, 8 Central. For some great conversation with awesome guests and some fun along the way. Be sure to follow Peggy's social media on Periscope, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. For all of Peggy's sponsors, check out the links in the description. Here's your host, Peggy Gypsy.
Hello, beautiful people, and welcome to Into the Abyss with Peggy Gypsy. I am your host, Peggy Gypsy. Wow, it's been a long time since I've done a live show or any show because we've been having so many issues with just things, personal things that pop up when you book guests or, even with yourself that you think you're able to make it to the show and things happen. So I do apologize for not having a show in, I think, a month or a month and a half. I have a wonderful guest today, but I'll let you know who she is. I know I've been posting it on Facebook talking about spiritual lineage. She is my cousin, which is so awesome, and we'll get more into conversation in a bit. I do want to thank my sponsors. My first sponsor is Crescent City Conjure, and they're located in New Orleans, Louisiana. So if you guys are down in Louisiana, make sure you check them out. They are amazing. They're on Royal Street. Go in, say hi. Sen is amazing. He was my first guest, and he is also going to be my guest for my anniversary episode. My second sponsor is Colorado Paratech. They are the creator of the Ghost Light, and they also send me some cool equipment. So if you guys have a chance, make sure you go into my Facebook and see a live that I did and just kind of describe what the equipment is. I still haven't used it for an investigation because I've been, kind of busy, but I do promise as soon as I get out there, I am going to use it and it's going to be awesome. Hi, Darren. Hi, Wolf. Okay, so so many exciting things. I know you guys do know that I am a co-owner of Mysterious Journeys with Lynn Chekai. We haven't had any events because we are completely focusing on Christmas with the Tennessee Ray Chasers, which is December 8th at Statler City in Buffalo, New York. You guys, we keep telling you guys to get your tickets. We are almost sold out with the VIP tickets. So please make sure you get your tickets on time. We will not be adding more tickets. Once it sells out, it sells out. Also, you can get tickets by going on my Facebook at Mysterious Journeys or Peggy Gypsy, and you will see the ad and the link that will take you to brown paper tickets to purchase the tickets. Or you could go directly through TennesseeRayChasers.com, and there is a link on the boys' website, and you can purchase the tickets there. Now, you guys, this event is going to be amazing. I mean, if you know anything about Mike and Chris, you do know that they're fun, they're down to earth, and it's just, I've investigated before with them down actually in Tennessee, and I just had a blast, and I knew that we had to bring him here to Buffalo. They are amazing guys. Oh, hey, Darren. I'm doing great. How are you? Okay, guys. So this is amazing. Like I said, my first guest, her name is Cindy. We call her Cin. And she is my cousin. And the reason why I wanted her to be on the show today is, I talk a lot about that I come from a long line of mediums and spiritual healers. And we have a lot of diverse backgrounds, as in witchcraft and voodoo, which most of us don't practice. Like this generation, we just don't practice that. But, our ancestors did. And so it's kind of nice to have her on the show. And just, we're just going to be having a conversation and chatting to, you guys are going to have a glimpse on how it was to be in our world and grow up in a spiritual family. So, Cin, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
Pretty good. I'm excited that you're on. I've been looking forward to this for weeks.
Me too. I actually have been. Yeah.
Yeah, very excited. Now, the way I'm going to start the show is, can you tell us, like, when was the first time that you noticed that you noticed spirits, you noticed like an energy shift, or you noticed that something was off, something was different in growing up?
Okay, so my first experience was more when I was like 5 years old. I didn't have normal dreams like any 5-year-old would have. It was more like I would dream about spirit. Like, how can I explain? It was more like I would dream about things that would happen.
Premonitions.
Yeah, I would always see things that would happen. I would always see like for example, like one day I saw myself in a school, and I was like only 5 years old. I saw myself in a school, and I was looking up in the sky, and I remember seeing like balls of fire.
Oh, wow.
Falling, and I didn't understand what it was. After that, I saw I would see pictures of people. I would have dreams of like my teeth falling out. And it would be like, okay, my teeth are falling out and what? So I started asking around, and they told me that usually when you see like teeth falling out, it's somebody passing away. And I didn't believe it, but then it would happen right after that. It would really happen, and I'm like, oh my God, this is crazy. That was about it, but that's when I was younger.
Yeah. I mean, I can think back to even being at your house in New York, and for you guys, we lived in buildings in New York, and her father was the super for both buildings. So it was almost like the building manager kind of thing for those of you guys who never, grew up in New York City. And they lived in one of the basements, which is a full-blown house, humongous. And there was the boiler room. And, when you're a kid, you're like, oh, the boiler room is so scary. It's so this. And I remember us as kids, you were a little bit younger than all of us. But I do remember, like, even at that age, we knew what porters were. And we were like, wow, that has to be a porter. That has to be where spirits are coming in and out. And, now that I'm older, of course, it's going to be them coming in and out, because it is a boiler room. There's a lot of electricity and energy in that room. But did you experience anything like being in the living in the basement for that long? Like, did you hear noises and stuff that you were just kind of like, okay, what is this? What's going on?
Yeah, that's where my dream started. That's where everything happened in the beginning. After that, one day I was outside with my parents, and I was little, and this guy just walked up to like the outside of the basement, and he was like, it was crazy because he just looked at my parents and he said, I'm gonna take her. And my parents were like, what are you talking about? And he went around my parents and me, and then he went and did a circle around me. He said, I'm gonna take her. And he started talking about like taking me to another world, and it was the weirdest thing. And then my parents were, of course, my father was protective, and he was trying to keep me safe, and he pulled me away. I never understood it, but I remember it clear. It was like, it's almost like when somebody's trying to like, it was somebody like trying to take over something, and I didn't understand what it was at that point. I was like, that person, automatically, I know that person knew. They knew.
But like, did you feel like, I mean, I know you were young, but like, did you feel like he was something evil? Like he was coming with bad intentions?
Yes, it was something evil. It was something evil, because I do remember, until this day, I remember the feeling. It was like something very evil trying to take over something. Like it was like almost like we as a family, we have a purpose. And it's almost like like we're not evil. Like whatever is evil is trying to take over whatever
True.
we have, you know?
True. Now, for you guys, we grew up in Washington Heights in New York City, and like I said, our family lived between two buildings because we are a huge Dominican family. So we've always been together. And the first floor, like right when you walked in, to your right, that apartment was a lady named Makuka. Now, that's a weird name for you Americans. Her name was Makuka, and she was a voodoo priestess. So you always saw her dressed in white. Every time you walked by her door, you just you knew things was going on. So did you remember as a kid just running past her door because you knew stuff was going on that you didn't want to be part of?
Yes,
Well,
I do.
yeah.
And then not only that, I'm gonna be 100% honest with you. I feel like Makuka saved my life.
Yeah.
Personally, she saved my life. Like, I had, when I was like 5 years old, my appendix burst. And it punctured my intestines. It punctured everything. And the first person that my mother called was her because she didn't understand what was going on. And Makuka went in there and she grabbed, it was the weirdest thing, but she grabbed a bucket. She put it next to me. She grabbed a towel, wrapped it around her hand. Now, this is a big woman. She was like tall, big woman. And I'm only 5 years old. She wrapped it around her hand. She put vinegar on it, and she shoved her whole fist in my throat. And I just started throwing up. And then she told my mother, grab her, take her to the hospital. And when I went, my mother took me there. It was like, they said, you need to rush her to emergency. And after that, I was in the hospital for 3 months. They were expecting me not to survive it. But I remember one day, Makuka came, and she bought a live doll, the same size of me, and it was dressed in like a light purple dress, and she bought my mother the same dress that the doll had, and she looked at her and she said, "You're gonna walk out with your daughter with this dress on." And my mother kept it, and she was like, "Okay," but then 3 months later. Like, nobody expected me to survive. Yeah. Doctors didn't understand it, and I did.
Yeah. Now, you guys, Makuka, she was about, I don't know if she's still she's still alive. I don't think she is because she was already, I want to say she was already in her 50s at that time. Like, she was an older woman. She was about 5'9", about 200 pounds, very, very dark skin. And she was always dressed in white. And, we would run past her door and kind of peek because she would leave it ajar, the door. And you would see, like the saints and dolls. And, the reason for the doll, now that I'm older and I research things like that, is when they did the life doll of Cindy, that doll was taking the energy and taking the toxicity of the disease that Cindy had. The doll was taking it from her. So that's why it was a miracle when she walked out. And this is when you get, science and you get the spirit world together. And, a 5-year-old girl who was not supposed to survive winds up walking away and being okay, which that was a miracle. I remember that was definitely a miracle.
It was a miracle. I remember that they even, they decided to even call Make-A-Wish. Like, they were like, she's done. Like, it's done. Like, they gave up on me. Like, of course they didn't give up on me. The doctors were there, but they even told my mother, like, bring everything from the house, make the room comfortable for her. Like, it was like they were ready to expect the worst.
So now Make-A-Wish, you guys, let me tell you what happened. So Make-A-Wish, if it's like, they make the last wish for the kids, usually kids with cancer or with like a terminal illness. And, they send them to Disney, send them to do a lot of different things. So they ask 5-year-old Cindy, what she wants to do. And 5-year-old Cindy, instead of saying, I want all my cousins to go to Disney, she says she wants to go to Care Bear Broadway show. Until this day, I don't let it down.
and it's funny because the funny thing about it is at that point they can't take me to the Broadway show, so they decide to bring Care Bears to me, like characters. Yeah. And it still didn't matter. I made the wish, and it still didn't matter because by the time they came, I was in a coma, so it didn't work.
Yeah, so you
No.
guys, and she couldn't go to the Broadway shows. So the characters, they came into the room, and when they came to see her, she was in an induced coma, so she didn't even get to enjoy this. So for her whole life, all of us have been saying, "Why didn't you pick Disney? Why didn't you?" So until this day, it's like she kind of screwed us over because we didn't want to see no Care Bears. Now
No, I did not screw you over because, to be honest with you, I survived. So,
well, yeah, but we could have gone to Disney too. Now,
that's fine.
so Darren is asking a question which I'm going to answer. He's asking if I've ever done an investigation with someone who did voodoo. Yes, Darren, I've done investigation with people who do voodoo or hoodoo, which is completely different. One is a Haitian and one is African root work. But yes, I have, and this is how I see it when it comes to voodoo, hoodoo, or anything else that people believe in. We all believe in different things, and I feel like as investigators, we kind of have to respect each other's views and what we all bring into the investigation. We're never going to find a group of people that believe the same things. So yes, I've done investigation with people who do voodoo, hoodoo, Santeria, who are Satanists, and it's all about respect. I know where I stand, and I know that God is first in everything that I do. I am Catholic, and I put God first in everything, but it's all about having boundaries and respect. You have to remember, at the end of the day, we do this because we are researchers. We want to know what happens in the afterlife. How can we help those souls who are still here, and how we can help those people who are mourning who stayed behind. So I hope that answered your question. Now, Cindy, I know you've experienced sleep paralysis. Now, can you go into your, what happened when the experiences you've had that you fall asleep and you see a spirit on top of you?
Okay. Before I do talk about it, I do want to add to something that you just said.
Mm-hmm.
I want everybody to understand that you're protected. You're protected if God is your main source.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you don't have to do anything. Like, once you feel anything against you and you understand that God is your savior, it's over. Like, nobody can
Exactly.
touch you. Nobody
Exactly.
can touch you. Like, I did want to add that. You don't have to go get help. You don't have to figure it out. Like, you have all the power in your hands.
Mm-hmm.
That's
And
the first thing.
exactly, and also, you guys, we come from, like I've said a lot of times on my shows, that we do come from spiritual lineage. We come from, a lot of generations of magic and hoodoo and voodoo and Santeria and witches and all these things, and generational. We are protected, the Savignones. We are protected from things, from people doing bad to us and trying to do. There's times that I felt that people are trying to do voodoo on me, and it's almost like we get like a little like, hey, somebody's trying to do something to you. So we know what to do spiritually and how to protect ourselves against that. So that's one thing that you always hear about our families, that we're always protected. The same thing
Yeah.
that we do have a curse. It's called the Savinon curse, and through generations we try to break that curse, and it's I think a few of us, well, not me, but you are happily married, and you're in love and happily married, but
Yes.
that's our curse that we have in our family, is that the women, we're all amazing, beautiful, intelligent, smart, but we can have everything else in the world except a relationship, a successful marriage or relationship. That's something that it's always been said since we've been growing up, that it's the Savignon curse, that they all
But
remain
I
single.
I do also believe, Peggy, that it all has to do more with we're strong. We're a
Yeah,
strong group of women. Like, we grew up believing that we can do anything. Like,
absolutely.
if we are completely in love with somebody, it's because they're like practically like adding to whatever we can have, but we don't need. It's like we
Exactly.
want they're there, but we don't need, because we are very strong.
Yeah, we're very strong women in our family. We're very resilient. That's the word I was thinking. And we're very resilient. So if we want to be with somebody, it's not because we need the love or we need the companionship. It's because we want that. So, I feel like this generation versus the last generation is kind of breaking that curse. And I hope that our younger cousins keep going forward and just completely break that curse. But yeah, that's something
Yeah.
that we've always heard. Oh, the Savinon curse. I mean, there's probably a whole bunch of them, but that's the one that I
Yeah.
always. There's,
But it
you
is
know.
true though. You know it is true because it's almost like we are all very pretty. Like we have like I'm not trying to. I don't want to seem like but we are a good looking family, and it's always like the women are always finding like a relationship, and it's almost like if they're making somebody better for somebody else. It's weird.
Yeah, it's like, like when I talk to my friends, I say the gift that I have in relationship is I'm going to make that man better for the next woman. So,
Yes.
so even if I see somebody and that I am truly like I melt for him. And I know that even though he is a good man, he's not a good man for me. I'm getting him ready for the next relationship. So it's
Yes,
almost like,
that's true.
and I think that becomes part of the curse. It's like, I feel like that's what we do is we make people better for the next relationship, the next friendship. Like this is what we do.
Okay, so going back to the sleep paralysis and all that, of course, because
Yeah.
you asked me that question and we were like went deep.
Yeah, right.
But I know we just kept on going. But the first time it happened to me, it was the weirdest thing because I always had it, but it wasn't like I would be like, okay, it was just a dream. But the first time it happened to me was when I was living in Puerto Rico. I was still in my house. I was planning to leave my house and go with my boyfriend. It was going to be crazy, but I was willing. I was going to go. And my mother was there, and it was the last time that I was going to be in the house, like living there. And I remember I decided to go to sleep, and I was waiting for my boyfriend so I can go. And I felt like if somebody walked up and went into my room and they hugged me. It was the weirdest thing. They hugged me. In my mind, I'm thinking, oh, my boyfriend went to wake me up so we can get ready so I could pick up my stuff and go. And at that point, I understood that I couldn't move. And I couldn't move, and I could not move for the life of me. And then I remember that I started freaking out, and then all of a sudden, I felt like a warm kiss on my cheek. It was almost like a goodbye.
Mm-hmm.
But the crazy thing about it was that I was feeling it in that house for so long.
Mm-hmm.
So I almost felt like it was somebody saying goodbye to me.
Yeah.
And then I got up and I got scared and I ran. But at the same time, it was like the last time that I felt it there. Then I have felt it in different places, but it's not the same feeling that I felt in that house. But that was the first time. That was the first time that I felt that feeling.
No, that house was very, very haunted, and and it's not the house itself; it's the land. That piece of land, that plot was very, very haunted. I remember back in 2000, I want to say like 2009, 2010. Remember that I went to visit you in Puerto Rico, and then I walked over to the house and it was empty.
Mm-hmm.
And I went in with Bianca, and it was just so dark. It's a beautiful, guys. This was like a picture perfect, beautiful house that was built. Beautiful.
They
The
used to call
prettiest
it
house.
they used to call it a dollhouse. Remember?
It looked like a
Because
dollhouse. Yeah.
it was a wooden house. It had 2 floors. It was pink and gray, and it was more than 15 women living in that house.
Yeah. It was a beautiful home, but it was so sinister and dark at the same time. Like if you would wake up at night and go to the bathroom, you would see shadows, you would hear things. I don't want to say the name of the cousin, but, a few cousins will have sleep paralysis in the same room, the same night. So it was just always just kind of like that weirdness. And seeing that house empty and me walking in was just, it was crazy. It was just such a crazy, crazy thing.
So mind you that house was built by my father. So that house, it wasn't like we just moved in and something happened before.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, but I don't think that it had to do anything with the house. What I think is that when your ancestors do things or they create things or they look into things that they don't have to, they carry that baggage, and whoever is born from that lineage automatically carries that baggage like eventually.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's like it was too much energy of us in that place, and it was just
too much. It was. I remember having so many experiences, when I lived there briefly. It was, it was a lot. And then, you guys, my mom bought a lot, maybe like 5 minutes away. And even from the first night that I slept in, my house, I started seeing shadows like outside my window every single night for about 4 years. And that's when I started questioning, is there a God? Like, who is the God? Is, Judaism the right religion? Is Catholicism the right religion? Is Christianity? And, and you remember, that's when I started experiencing so many things and just trying to see what was the right religion, because I couldn't understand why I was being taunted every night. And then after that is, my house was sold to my uncle. And then after that, to Cindy. Cindy ended up buying the house. So she'll give you a little bit of experience. Yeah. Dan says it could be the land that it was built on. Yeah, Dan, the land in Puerto Rico is, it's very tricky. A lot of things happen. You go back to, the Taino Indians. You go back to a lot of murders and slaughters that happen in Puerto Rico, especially in these small towns. And then you go in coming from New York City, you know nothing in the sense of the history of the land, and you buy a cheap plot and you build your dream house, which winds up being not a dream.
Yes, and it is true. But let me tell Dan something. Let me answer that question. I do believe what Peggy's saying is completely truthful. Like that, she's right. But if you think about it, there's people living in the house right now and they're totally, completely happy. They don't see it. What I'm trying to explain is that when her mom sells the house, I buy the house eventually, like in between, and everybody that was living in the house with me was totally okay. There was nothing happening. The problem was that I was living in her house and I couldn't stand at a certain time. I would say like the daytime was perfect. When the nighttime hit, I could not deal with it. Like the only room that I would be okay with was the room that her mother had. That was my main room. So once I went to that room, I felt okay. But if I was walking around the house in the nighttime, it was crazy.
Oh, yeah. The sun will go down and it's like you can feel the dark energy circling the house. And you can feel that energy.
It's almost like if you're being watched all the time.
And it wasn't anything nice. I remember the last time I went to visit you, that last trip when you were still living in Puerto Rico, that I slept back in my old room. I felt it and I'm like, oh, great. Why am I here again? Like, like, what is it? And, just to piggyback on what you were saying, if you don't have that inkling of being spiritual, someone can move into a haunted home and not even have anything happen to them. And then you have another family who is open to spirituality or who is sensitive, and then things just happen. And it's like, why didn't it happen to this family, but it happened to, this other family?
Because I feel like spirits are trying to connect to people that they know that can take the message out. Like some of the spirits are just trying to send a message. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So they automatically get connected to somebody that is in there that they know that's going to get the message across. It has nothing to do, like, you can move in and of course, you could be a great person. Everybody has a purpose in life. Yeah. But there's people that have a purpose where you're going to guide somebody in the right way, or, it's different. Like, but in a way, like our purpose, I feel like it's more like to give information.
We're just conduit. Yeah, we're conduit to give information. Now, Darren has a question. I'll answer it and then you can answer it. He says, what's the scariest thing that has happened to you? Darren, for me, the scariest experience that I've ever had, which is funny because Dan is actually on, it was at his property at the Hinsdale house in Hinsdale, New York. My Uncle Philo passed away. So he's almost been gone for about, I think it's like 10 years, a little bit over 10 years. And I was doing an investigation at the house, and I looked over towards the kitchen in the doorway, and my uncle was standing there. And I've said this story a couple times, but yeah, he was standing there, and I remember staring at him, and the person who I was investigating with was saying, that's not, whatever you're seeing, it's not real. And I looked at him and I said in Spanish, because my uncle, main language was Spanish, and I said, Tio Felo, is that you? And all of a sudden, I just saw like black beady eyes. Even in the darkness, I saw the black, so soulless eyes, and then he disappeared. So that's something that always resonates with me, is that experience. Now, Cindy, what has been the scariest experience that's happened to you? It could have been, a premonition that happened to you, that you saw in a dream and then happened that became true. Like, what is the scariest thing?
My scariest thing is sleep paralysis, because it's something that I cannot control.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm a control freak. Like I'm like I said, I'm a strong woman. I try to control everything around me and make sure. But it's been happening for a long time, and I've always been able to like get rid of it. Like for example, like when it happens, I pray and I pray and I pray and I pray, and I feel whatever is holding me down leaving.
Yeah.
But one time, I was praying and praying and praying and praying, and I felt it leaving, and I stopped praying, and I said, oh, thank God. And right then and there, whatever was holding me down grabbed me harder, stronger. And I heard in my ear clearly, and it said, your God can't help you.
Yeah.
And it went harder, like it pinned me down, and I heard it so clear. And it scared me so much, but I kept on praying, praying, praying. And what I did is that after I felt that it left, I still kept on praying, because at this point I didn't trust it. I'm like,
yeah, you're like, you're not you're not going to let me stop praying.
no, yeah, like, no. But the funny thing about, not the funny thing, but the crazy thing about it is that I actually, when you pray, you feel it, like leaving you alone. Like it gets weak.
Yeah.
But I just stopped too early, I'm assuming, and I thought that I was
you
okay.
probably hesitated. You probably were, you were probably still scared.
And that was the first time that it actually made me feel that it was something real. Like, not that I believe in it or I'm scared of it, but it did, because it was like, this is stronger than what I thought. It's way stronger than what I thought. Yeah, but that was the scariest thing. Everything else that has happened to me, like I have seen shadows. Like I have had, for example, I could be sitting down and with friends or with family members, and all of a sudden I get really exhausted and I fall asleep, and like I wake up and I look at them and I'm like, I've been sleeping for a long time. They're like, no, you slept like for a second.
Yeah.
I'm like, are you kidding me? And in that second I had a whole premonition. And then I talked to them about it, and I explained to them. They're like, no, we don't know what you're talking about. And then the next day they receive calls, and they know, and it's detailed what I saw.
Yeah.
And it is scary, because you do know, like, I feel like, to Dan, I told you exactly what was the scariest, but in a way, it's like you don't really know. Like, everything that happens is a little scary, because you never know if it has to do with just some random person or it's somebody close to you.
Yeah.
It's like you, for example, I'm pretty sure Peggy has gone through this. Like, you wake up one day and you just have a feeling.
Oh, yeah.
Something's wrong.
Something's
wrong. And then you're walking around life, like going to work, getting up, living around life, feeling like there's something about to happen. And then somebody walks up to you and tells you something, and the feeling is gone. So you know that was it. But at the same time, you don't know until you know. You don't know until you know.
Yeah. So Dan did say, it's sleep paralysis or is it a spirit? But I agree. Sleep paralysis is the scientific term. I mean, everybody has their own theories, ideas. I mean, none of us know who's right, who's wrong, but we have been, thank God, I'm going to knock on wood. There's a lot of people in my family that have been plagued by sleep paralysis, which is spirits coming and, evil spirits trying to take over you and trying to overpower you. And that's something that is very, very common in the Savinon girls. Like, we knock on wood again, it hasn't happened to me, thank you Jesus. But you know, a lot of them they go through sleep paralysis, which again is a scientific term, which is just a spirit trying to overpower you while you're asleep. And that happens because when you are asleep, you're the most vulnerable. You are just open to energy, open to everything.
And the crazy thing about sleep paralysis, I don't know how everybody else goes through it if they do, but the crazy thing about sleep paralysis for me, it's like I know that it's gonna happen before it happens. Like I'm laying down and I feel exhausted, but I'm like terrified to go to sleep. Like it's something that's telling me don't sleep, but I can't control it. I go to sleep and I already feel it before it happens. And it's a very, very scary thing, but I feel like eventually you just get used to it. Well, when it does happen, when it's a strong person that can deal with it, like you get used to it.
Yeah.
It is something scary. I'm not even gonna lie, it's scary. Like you can never really get completely used to it. Like you do get used to it because like, okay, it happens to me. I'm gonna deal with it, and you learn how to deal with it and how to let it stop it. But when you first get it, it's something terrifying.
Yeah. Now, I do want to talk about something that happened when we were kids. Well, not kids. I was about maybe, I want to say 15 years old. Christmas morning at your house.
Oh my God, that was crazy.
So, you guys, it's Christmas morning. We're all sleeping. It's a kind of like, imagine having a sleepover and like in your living room, and all the kids are there, and her mom is by the window smoking her cigarette like she always does. And when you look out of that window, you see the house is in front of you, but then there's a hill, a huge hill that has houses and stuff, but like also empty plot, like an empty land up there. And her mother, now can you tell us what happened after that? Because I don't want to give away the whole story.
So, I'm going to tell you what she told me, and then I'm going to tell you what I remember when we woke up. My father used to work, like late job. It was like he would come home at 3 a.m, something like that. And, as she was like looking out the window, expecting him, she made food for him because as being Hispanic, you know, the wife is always waiting for the husband. It's like, okay, he comes late, we have to feed him, because the family, like Hispanic families, believe that it's through food. You have to feed everybody. And
yeah, definitely.
So she woke up and she made like coffee for him and bread with butter and all that stuff. And she saw out of the window, she saw something in the sky that was like lit up, and it was like going in circles. And she's like, oh my God, like what is this? So she starts calling my aunt. My aunt was living with us because at that point the whole family practically was living there.
Yeah.
And she starts calling my aunt. My aunt was in the bathroom, and she's calling my aunt, come see this. But my aunt can't get up and go to the go see, because at that point she couldn't go. It was like something that didn't let her go.
Yeah.
So then she's watching it, and this light up thing that is going is round, is like a saucer. It's going in circles, and it goes down to a piece of land, and she doesn't see it no more. Now my father gets there, but she decides that she's not going to tell nobody until it's morning, because she didn't want nobody to run over there. She was scared.
Yeah, because we're crazy. We would have all gotten up and headed up that mountain.
Yeah. Like my whole family, like they probably would have woken up all the kids and be like, we're all walking at 3 a.m. to see what it is.
Yeah, we need to know what it is.
Yeah, so it was Christmas Eve. So she wakes up everybody and she says it, and we all walk there. Mm-hmm. But the crazy thing about it was that the land where it landed was Teofilo's land, my uncle, the one that passed away that Peggy mentioned.
Yeah.
And we went there, and there was a crop circle. Like it was like you saw and it was actually, there was smoke coming out of it. Like it was
still hot, and there was still smoke on it.
Yeah, and there was a circle, and around the circle that was burned, all the grass was burned. All the grass around it was laying because of the pressure of the air of whatever landed. And there was like 4 little dots on the side. Like if something landed and put out, how can I explain it, Peggy? Like they put out like the ship put out.
It was almost like the ship put out the ladder to walk out.
Yeah, there was points, and then we saw it. And should I say the rest of it? Like,
no, I can say, well, after that, it's Hispanic people. One thing happened, everybody hears about it in the neighborhood, so everybody's walking around, and then we find out that there was actually other landing and other sightings not too far from that. So a lot of people ended up experiencing and seeing the same things on Christmas morning, which is
and not only that, like I feel like when it comes to things like that, people don't want to believe. Mm-hmm. People are always going to try to hide it. So when they decided to call the news, not to say specifically what news, but they called the news, and when my mother was trying to explain it, they videoed her, they put it out there and whatever. But then after that, of course, they came out and said that a woman that was crazy.
Yeah, they wanted to say that she was crazy.
Thought she saw, and I know my mother was never crazy. Like, that never happened.
Yeah, she knows what she saw, and other people in different neighborhoods ended up seeing the same thing in their neighborhood, and there was other crop circles. So it's always it's almost like a conspiracy trying to cover. Now Dan did say something actually kind of cool, that he says, do people have the sleep paralysis happen because your spirits leave while you're sleeping? Now, Dan, the interesting thing is, if you look into like Santeria and Voodoo, is your spirits leaves when you're asleep, and you are the most vulnerable. And there's actually a curse that you can do on someone, which I'm not going to say on air, while they're sleeping. And what happens is, when you do this certain thing when a person is asleep, their spirit will never find their body. And that's one way. You know how in Haiti they say you have walking zombies? It's because they disconnect the spirit, the soul, from the actual body. And that's one way that people become, walking around zombies and crazy stuff like that, which I will never share that, because that's terrible to do.
Oh, and let me tell you, Peggy, like, this is something that I want to put out there. You remember when you asked me what was the scariest thing for me?
Yeah.
I have another story.
Oh,
yeah. And it's super crazy. I was in New York City visiting my sister and all that, and I was there, and 3 days, like, every time that I would go to sleep for 3 days, I had this dream where I saw this man. He was an old man, and he had a white beard, and he was walking behind me like he was trying to talk to me, right? Mm-hmm. So then he's trying to talk to me, and the third day, you already know that the number 3 is like very powerful.
Yeah.
The third day, I stopped in my dream, and I turned around and I looked at him and I said, is there something you want to tell me? You've been following me in my dreams for 3 days. And he looked at me and he said, somebody's trying to do voodoo on you, right? Mm-hmm. And I said, voodoo? I said, listen, I don't believe in voodoo, but I know voodoo's there, but I'm saying I don't believe in voodoo because I believe in God. And he looked at me and he said, do you want me to show you? And I said, yeah. And right then and there in the dream, his jaw dropped and blood started flowing out of his mouth. So then I wake up. Of course, I wake up. But I have this taste of blood in my mouth. So then I walk away and I go to the mirror. Of course, I'm going to brush my teeth. I woke up. And I look in my mouth to see if I'm bleeding. And at that point, I'm thinking maybe my jaw was too tight. I was holding my jaw too tight, or I bit my tongue or something. And I'm looking for blood and there's nothing. So I gather, and I'm sorry guys for saying this because it's going to sound nasty, but I gathered my spit to spit out because it tasted bad. And when I spit out a whole ball of blood. So I was like, that's weird. Like, it was really weird. Mm-hmm. So then I call my mother, and my mother tells me, Cindy, don't worry about it. You are protected and all that. And I said, I know, I understand. So then, like, maybe an hour later, I received a call from Puerto Rico. I was just visiting from Puerto Rico. At that point, I was living in Puerto Rico, and I had a relationship there and whatever. And he calls and he says, there's something weird happening. And I said, what happened? There's a jar of blood under our stairs. Mm-hmm. And I said, what? They're like, yeah, there's a jar of blood under our stairs. And I'm like, okay. So he calls somebody that he knows, and they come up and they're going to open up the jar. But before they open up the jar, the people are around them, and they take holy water and they start blessing and saying prayers to God. But when they were putting the holy water, they forgot to put the holy water on one person that was there.
Mm-hmm.
And when they opened up the jar, the person just flew back.
Yeah.
And fell on the floor. But obviously, like I said, like I had the dream before and I
You
saw
already
it.
knew. Yeah. You already knew
Yeah,
that
I was
someone.
just waiting. I was just waiting for it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I had not an experience like that, but I did have someone, I'm not going to say names or anything like that, someone who used to be a friend. Long time ago, I want to say maybe like, oh my God, 10, 15 years ago. And, things were going wrong in my life, relationship, anything you can think of was just going so bad. And my mom said that she received a call from Dominican Republic that somebody was trying to do voodoo on me. And they told me what to do. And they said, this is the person. They showed me who she looked like. They told me how she looks. And I knew that it was the girl who was now no longer my friend. And they said, you work with her. When you sit down in the lunchroom, take a glass of water, take a plate, put salt, and put everything upside down. When she walks by, it will shatter. And let me tell you, my cousin Elizabeth was sitting with me. This girl walked by and it shattered. And then all of a sudden she just stared at me like, almost like, holy shit, like she knows. And this is why it's just so crazy why we are so protected. So when people try to do harm to me, I know. I always know people, which is crazy because you know who, you know what I mean? You have an idea who it is. And you know when someone wishes you wrong or, it's crazy. So, even though we do have such a background in that, this generation, we don't practice that. We kind of veered away more towards like the spirituality, the mediumship, the psychic part of things. We kind of, that's left back in the past.
And a lot of people might see it as a curse, and I think it's a gift. Like, It is hard. It is hard. It's something that, like, I feel like some people walk around the world and they have no acknowledgement of what's going on around them when it comes to the spiritual world, and they claim to live like a great life. And I'm not judging anybody. Everybody does their own thing, but I'm saying like when you have this gift, it's almost like you feel and you know. It's like it's like instead of questioning why did this happen, you know exactly why it's happening.
Exactly.
And it's really calming, but at the same time it's scary because it's when you least expect it. It's not something that you could be like, oh, I feel it coming and it's gonna happen a week. It's like, oh, I'm okay today, I'm smiling, and all of a sudden I'm crying. And I'm just saying, like, I consider myself, like, honestly, out of everything, I consider myself an empath. So it's almost like I feed off of energy and feelings. So everything that happens around me, I feel it. And it's exhausting. It's exhausting because...
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the opposite. I have no emotions. And that's bad. That's a bad thing. And even as a child, I was never emotional. I was always distant.
Oh, yeah.
Don't touch me. Don't hug me. Leave me alone. I don't like feelings. So
like, she is easy. Like, Peggy is easy to walk away from something and, like, be like, okay, I'm done. I don't have that. Like, my mother used to laugh at me because when I was little, what happened was that I would go to school, and it's a different environment. Of course, I was in middle school, and I have friends that were going through situations, and friends that got pregnant and all that. And I wanted to take everybody home. Like, I will come home every day telling my mother, oh yeah, I'm going to bring my friend that she's pregnant. My mother's like, Cindy, no, you cannot bring your pregnant friend here. Like, I wanted to save the world. But that's the thing. Like, it's something that when I was young, I was like, yeah, I want to save the world. But at this point, it's like almost like if one day you just walk in. Oh, this is an experience that I did have being an empath. I was working in a place and I had a coworker. She was an older lady, and I always saw her every day. She worked directly with me, and I saw her every day. And that day, I walked in and I felt this terrible sadness and pain. It was weird. So I just kept on working. She didn't really speak to me. And I walked up to her and I said, hey, I'm sorry, and I don't want to seem crazy because a lot of people do not understand it.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, but is there something that you are going through? Because I'm feeling extremely sad. There's something about you I'm extremely sad. And this woman just broke down and started crying. And she told me, today was the day that my husband died.
Oh.
And when she told me, I hugged her, we cried, and then I felt okay. But at that moment before that, every time I was around her, I feel this pain, and it's something weird. It's like a pain, like hurt, do you know when you can't breathe?
Mm-hmm.
When you're in so much pain that you feel like pain in your heart.
That your heart hurts, yeah.
Your
But
heart hurts to
you've
the point.
always been like that. You've always been like that, even as a child. You always felt a lot, and you always, were very nice. Now we have a question. Darren says, question: if you come across a full body apparition, who would you want it to be, and what would you say? Darren, unfortunately, I have been. I am a seer. I see things. I hear. I smell. And I've seen full body apparitions plenty of times, and it's never anything that I do want to see, But who would I want to see that's dead? I would say, oh my gosh, I would probably say like Galileo or something like that, something crazy like that, and just kind of sit down with them, or Nostradamus, and sit down with him and see what else did Nostradamus project. You know what I mean? But Cindy, if you were to see a full body apparition, who would you want it to be?
It's gonna sound really weird, but I feel like I don't know that I would want to see anybody. Yeah. Only because this is the reason why I say it. Because I feel like spirits, they have two options: or they understand and they guide themselves to the light, mm-hmm. or they stay behind because they have unfinished business that they have to deal with. That's something that's really real. Yeah. And whoever is able to appear in front of you has not gone to the light.
Now, who would you want to see?
If I wanted to see somebody, if I had the chance, it would probably be my grandfather on my father's side.
No, really?
Yes.
I would think Uncle Felo, to tell you a joke. No. Uncle Felo, don't come to me tonight.
No, I wouldn't say Uncle Felo, because I feel like Uncle Felo is taking care of Cito.
He is. He's good. Yeah, he's good. So you would say I remember your grandfather, but we're not going to get into that that's a whole different thing.
No, that's a different thing that I don't. But I do. The reason why I say about him is because, when you meet, there's people that you meet in life. Like, when you meet people in life, you're going to know, it's almost like a spiritual connection. Mm-hmm. There's people that you meet and you might think, oh my God, I like this person so much. It's because you were meant to meet, and it's a spiritual connection. It's somebody that you, and the first person that I met with that spiritual connection was him, my grandfather.
I know we're not going to get into it or anything like that, because, there's certain things well, you guys have to understand, we all come from spiritual families on both sides, our mother's sides, our father's sides, in each way possible that you can think of. So, sometimes we do not talk about certain things, and those are one things. But what I am going to say about your grandfather on your father's side, he was a very strong man.
Yes, he was.
He was very, very spiritual, strong man. That's all I can remember about him, was he was very, very strong.
This man, if you was to ever meet him, he was a strong presence. When he stood up, it was almost the only way I could explain about him, it's almost like if you had just rays of light coming out of his back. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was very strong. He walked and he shined. It was the weirdest thing.
He did.
It was a beautiful, beautiful soul.
He was. Rest in peace. So now we're coming to the end of our show. And, this was such a great conversation. I'm excited that, you were on and people got a glimpse of how it was to be in a spiritual family. And we talked a little bit about our lineage. And, it's amazing. Not everybody has that. Not everybody can sit and, go back generations and talk about spirituality in their family. So I think we're very lucky to come from such blessed family on both sides. And, it's a gift and it's amazing. Now, Cindy, I'm going to let you close out the show, but I do want to thank everybody for tuning in today. And thank you, Rebecca. Rebecca said, sounds like a cool family. It is, Rebecca. Thank you. But, you guys have a wonderful night. I'm going to let Cindy just give you a couple words of wisdom, and we're going to go ahead and close out the show. And make sure you guys share it so other people who didn't listen to the show today can listen to the replay. Now, Cindy, you have the last words on the show.
Okay, so I just want to say thank you for listening. I'm so happy that you guys listen. I'm happy that I can put my word out there and we can actually speak about it, because it's something that a lot of people don't want to speak about. And also, I want to say that you have to understand that if you do feel this way, or if there's any way that you have premonitions or whatever, remember that it's a gift. You were born with this. It's something that comes from God. So you have the option of embracing it. Embrace it. Take it for yourself. It's yours. You are special. And also, just be blessed. Be blessed. Live life. If it's your last day, just have fun. Because at the end of the day, it is what it is. You have to live life, to the fullest. It doesn't matter. Don't expect anybody. Anything you feel bad around you, that's what I'm trying to say. Everything you feel bad around you, just let it go. Just live. That's it. There's nothing else to it, but that's it. And thank you for listening.
All right, guys, have a wonderful night. We will be back I will be back on October 19th with psychic medium Charlotte Grace. And yeah, have a great night.